We're going to
Son of a gun.
It does say we can move stuff around.
I had Bill questions about some bills.
Thank you so much for covering me. I appreciate that.
Yeah, these are some.
Pop jotted it down on a sticky note.
I haven't been there yet. We've been wanting to do that.
Say something or discuss something. Well, yeah.
Over outside of.
These are last minute public comments for the TSP.
Yeah, it's between Lapine and.
Well, I guess the point is because
They call it the Oregon Outlet.
it's a resolution.
Yeah, we're gonna go there, and then we're gonna come back over, in the middle of the week, and we're gonna go.
But yeah, you're right.
Coyote Creek, which is right outside.
Hey, we'd have to go, we could certainly.
They have a nice little campground right there, and we can ride out of the campground and go to home.
It's like it's supposed to be there, so.
Rock in the ground?
And
Been to the
Kraken,
Kraken?
yes, we went there last summer. Yeah.
I mean, this is Oregon, so for Oregon.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, yeah.
Oregon's a pretty amazing state.
It is.
It is.
We, I kind of.
Anyway, I got to
probably
looking at
next
that,
year,
and I
probably
got to read that. I was gonna email you guys, and I just never did.
Over, like
Yeah.
that Steens, yeah.
Yeah, we want to go over and do
I
that.
haven't been to that part of the state yet.
Oh, it's just
There one
isolated.
time.
Yes, you're right.
All my life I had, we finally went, and it was really amazing. We saw wild horses and the cattle.
Want to start this show?
Anyway, we digress.
People of Creswell, are you ready?
Thanks all for coming for the March 10th, 2025 council session. We all rise and pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we got one speaker tonight for the public forum. Carolyn Sudreth, can you come up to the podium, please? Got a second?
Hello, my name is Carol Ann Suddereth. I just wanted to commend you for initiating the placement of a traffic light at the northbound off-ramp of the I-5. As I'm sure most of you know, from the city side, the cars just fly over the bridge. And from the rural side, not only do they fly past there, missing the 45 mile an hour speed zone, but also there's a curve there on the road. So that if you have decreased mobility in your neck at all, you really can't even crane your neck to see them coming. So again, I commend you and I encourage you to finalize the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Second speaker is Buck Bazinet.
Hi, I'm Buck Bazinet. I live at 197 D Street. I'm here to speak on the South Second project. This is obviously something that is quite near and dear because I'm directly affected, especially that being a corner lot. My lot is supposed to be 70 by 100. Now, with that being said, there's a bunch of numbers being thrown out there. Nothing has been sent to me that's finalized. However, working with the engineer, he has designed the sidewalk to essentially not, from what I can tell, interfere with my property. Now, I still think that it's absurd, the amount of pricing, because even if I am to pay for the 100-foot side of my 100 by 70, that's still a $10,000 tab to me, when there is, in fact, people from the north, the south, the east, the west, and everywhere in between that absolutely walks down South 2nd Street to go to that water park that you all put in. People utilize our road. We do need sidewalks. I am not opposed to the sidewalk. Let me make that clear. I am not opposed to the sidewalk. I am opposed to me as a homeowner being solely responsible for that section of the sidewalk that the entire community is going to use. And not only do I have to pay for it out of my pocket, but I am going to be responsible to pay for any repairs and maintaining of that sidewalk that you guys are gonna own. So now I'm gonna pay for it and maintain it out of my pocket, but you guys own it. How on God's green earth does that make any sort of sense to anybody? That me solely paying for a sidewalk, turn around and have to maintain that and pay for any damages that occur if there's a drunk driver or if there's a young, inexperienced driver that takes out the curb or damages it. I have to pay for it as the homeowner. That is absurd. I don't know how any of you can sleep at night thinking that that's okay for me to have to pay for when you guys own it, but I have to pay for it. Now, if everybody had to pay for it, that's something different. That's how I feel about that. I'm not opposed to it. We need the sidewalks. Do I agree with the pricing? Absolutely not. Still, a $10,000 tab to me if I'm only going to pay for the 100-foot section is absurd. 100%. On a second note, I want to say that if an employee of this city goes to my employer in an attempt to silence me, that is out of control, and I have contacted an attorney, and I 100% have a civil lawsuit that I can bring against this city. Any more attempts to mess with my employment, my family, what feeds my family, you can guarantee I will sue the crap out of this city. Don't you ever send someone to mess with my employment again. I expect this council to direct the interim city manager to handle this. It is absurd, it was uncalled for, and unjust. Any further attempts on my job, you will be talking to my attorney. Thank you.
You guys looking to speak tonight? Thanks, Bart.
Yep. Did you
Give
want that?
that, yeah, if you give that to Caitlin, please. Yeah, once I get it.
Not yet. Okay, sorry.
Wayne Brooks, your 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Wayne Brooks, I live at 290 South 2nd Street. There's 2 houses from the bakery. And as far as sidewalks and curb and gutter and that, I agree we do need them. What I'm opposed to is the outrageous cost on it. Like I mentioned before, I'm on Social Security. It's hard enough just keeping up with inflation. My mother-in-law lives across the street, she's 94. And so she is not equipped to be able to deal with the big cost of something like this. And there's quite a few of our neighbors that are in the same predicament, that they're retired and we have limited income. But I feel like we do need the street to be fixed. We need the sidewalks. There's no doubt about that. I just feel that the cost on it, it's going to set me back. And if, as far as payments and that, it's going to be real slow because of my personal income. I was thinking about this in regards to the street. Like Buck mentioned, a lot of traffic goes down that, and especially LTD. I've heard that LTD does not want to put a dime into this project, which is too bad. So, because they use that street all the time, and they go at a pretty decent clip of speed that we've had to call a few times and tell them to slow down. And my thought on this is if they do not want to pay for anything, when they pick up people, I think it's on First Street? I think it's where the Second Street, where the bus stop is. When they pick up people there, instead of taking a left, take a right and go downtown and go back to 99 that way. The bus stop that's up on F Street, I've seen one person in 3 months catch a bus there. The only other time that's used is when the people in the apartment building go out and have a cigarette and sit on the bus stop. So there's really no traffic that goes there for them to pick it up. And so that's what I'm concerned about. If they don't want to pay for anything, then don't come down that street, because we get enough traffic as it is. But I'm all for cleaning up the area. We need it badly. But it's the price situation that is really making me very, very upset. And so hopefully the city council and the city itself will be fair in regards to this. Just as fair as you were on 8th Street when that was put up. Some of the people didn't pay for that. I heard it was because it was a grant because it was a school area going up to the grade school. And so if that's the case, maybe we can do a grant here too, some way, to be able to help minimize the cost that's going to affect the neighborhood. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Ms. Summer Martin?
Good afternoon, good evening, actually. It's nice to see all of you. My name's Summer Martin. I live up in the Cobalt area neighborhoods. I wasn't here to speak on the 2nd Street, although I agree, sidewalks would be great. Mostly I was here to just speak a little bit about Section 6C related to the stop light and or roundabout that is possibly in planning stages. Please don't put a roundabout in. That is my request. I have a lot of other options that we can look into to ensure that people aren't getting sort of stuck on the bridge before they go down Cloverdale. I know a roundabout would continue the straight passage, especially in evening hours, but there are a lot of other options out there. So my only request is that we do not put a roundabout there and that we look into some of those other options. One example would be, let's say at 10 o'clock at night, the straightaway turns into a yellow flashing light, and the stop light off of the freeway would be a flashing red light. So you'd have a yield and a stop and go if you need to at those hours that there's less traffic. Just one example of how we could not use a roundabout on that bridge or anywhere in that area. So that's my request. Thank you.
Chair Wortman, your 3 minutes, young lady.
Did you say that to me?
I did.
I haven't even got up there. You can't say that to me.
Too late. It's happening. It's on public record now.
Should I set my timer?
No.
Okay, Cheryl Waltman, 149 South 2nd. My concerns, and I take it that's what we're doing, there was just a mix-up in time getting here. I want to know, are you exempting people from doing any kind of payment? That is something that has been mentioned in a very quiet manner, and so I am concerned with that. Because that's, again, everybody is affected. I don't care who you are. Along with Buck and Wayne, we have people that are seriously financially strapped. I don't even think yet has anybody talked to Kathy and Dave. People aren't all getting, there's a lot of people in this town, even on 2nd Street, that don't know really what's going on. And that is a concern. I believe that everybody's just saying, hey, let's do something about the cost. What is the cost? What have you guys come up with? That would really help us out in knowing and understanding. Next question from another family that did not make it is there a timeline to get this paid off? And you've got your work throughout the summer. They kind of rattled that 2nd Street would be July, August. They're going to do D Street first. Then they're going to do, D Street. D Street, C Street, 2nd Street, F. Or, I know 2nd Street is just between C and D. Huh?
I don't have the schedule in front of me.
So, we really don't know what's going on. You had one planned at the last meeting we were at. It was not a publicized, it was not a recorded meeting. Has that changed again? Because you were sent off, the information was supposed to go on a survey to the county. We've had more surveyors out there. We've had double stakes, some places not even touched. Pins put in, pins moved. Things are so inconsistent. We really want something solid from you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who knows which one's mine?
Is that everybody, Caitlin?
There were no more forms.
Right here, babe.
Oh, sure.
Oh.
That makes sense.
Sir, you came in after me. Here, take it.
Yeah, well, I didn't steal the forms.
Somebody wanted to Bogart all the time. Keep changing her name.
Watch me.
Do I have to fill everything?
Just, your name's good enough, and address if you can.
I wrote fast, it's Brandon.
Okay, thank you.
Can I start?
Hit it.
Okay. I'm Brandon Craig. I live at 169 South 2nd, directly in front of the bakery. My biggest concern, at the last meeting we had, we looked at the parking in front of my house specifically. I'm the only person who's dealing with, I think it's 5 or 6 angled parking spots in front of my house. I don't like that. There's seemingly nothing I can do about it. But one thing that was really concerning to me was I brought it up with the engineer that I will not be able to pull out of my driveway. You're putting an 18-foot parking space directly in line with the approach to my soon-to-be driveway. And I said, how is that even something I can do? You can't even have a fence at the edge of your property for visual reasons. And he said, well, it would be unsafe to turn south. You're gonna have to start turning north. And to me, it would make zero sense why the city would allow a liability to go in front of my home. We know the bakery has out-of-town customers. We know they don't follow the parking laws and the rules as it is. We know they come with trucks, with trailers, and they're going to misuse this. Why are we setting up failure? And I have teenage drivers soon. My daughter won't be able to pull out of our driveway to one direction because of bakery traffic, because the city is allowing angled parking to only be put in front of my house. I'm the only person who has to deal with this. I brought it up during the planning stage. I work for a roofing contractor. I bring home trailers sometimes. That is now eliminated for me. I do not have parking that I will be able to do that with anymore, because now I will have angled parking that is only 18 feet long. My truck is a standard size truck, it's 20 feet. So they tell me you'll have to hang on to the sidewalk, that's equated. But I have a standard size truck. There's people who have extended cabs and 8-foot beds. I have a 6.5-foot bed with an extended cab. It's not feasible. So they say, well, maybe we could put a smaller parking spot there. Okay, you've already admitted that it is unsafe for me to pull out to the south. I go south every single day. That's been my route for 13 years that I've lived in that house. I'm not saying I'm incapable of change, but I'm saying that the plan that you've done for the bakery, we're trying to keep parking for the bakery, the only place on that street that has that amount of customers. And not only am I now given an unsafe way to pull out onto the road, I'm also forced to pay for a sidewalk for these improvements that, quite frankly, if the bakery wasn't there, we probably wouldn't be doing these improvements to the degree that we're doing. I think it's unfair that us as homeowners are having to bear this cost for the city. The city wants this downtown plan, but look at the area. It's a residential area. So I brought this up with Cliff years ago, and he was saying that in 50 years Creswell's going to be a different place, and this was the idea. And I believe that's what we talked about. We're trying to plan for the future. The road isn't going to last 50 years. Why don't we address this further on in the future? I think it's unfair for us to pay for these things at the degree that you're asking, which again, I don't even have the full figures in front of us. I don't know that that's been determined yet. But I also think that it's unsafe as your engineer has said, for the parking situation to be that way, and I just think that that's completely wrong. I don't think that parking should be there. I don't think you should tell me that my driveway pulling in and out is now compromised one direction. If there's an accident, who's at fault? The city did something that they self-admitted was unsafe. So that's really all I cared to bring up today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Quickly respond, this isn't normal, but some things are continuing to be fluid. And to respond to personally that nobody on Second Street knows, I personally wrote a letter that wasn't, I wrote it to myself and handed it out to each and every one of your guys' homes to try and make you as aware as possible of what was going on. I know it's not completely set in stone. We have more work to do, but we are getting there, and we're going to get you some solid numbers as soon as possible. It's definitely still fluid, and you can ask me at any time, email me anytime, I'll give you the most up-to-date information I have, or get you to somebody who has more information than me. I speak for the whole council on that. Feel free to email us anytime, and if you ain't getting the right information that you're looking for, email me, email Spencer. We want to get you the fair, correct information as soon as possible. I am not hiding anything from anyone. So I want to make that known. I'm here for you guys, and I will give you as much information as I have. Spencer, go ahead.
I encourage you to stick around for the actual agenda item because
Yep.
I'm covering some of the things that you talked about here in the report to the council. So
There was questions at the last meeting that we have some answers for that we want to give to you guys. So if you can hang tight for 6B, we'll hopefully have a little bit more clarification for you.
Yeah, I'm confused about the angled parking.
I am too.
I thought it was parallel.
That's a question that hasn't been brought up yet. And,
No, it's all angled directly in front of my house only.
yes,
It is.
and we'll
I
be
thought we
covering.
agreed on.
We'll get to it. I don't want to get too off track, but I just want to quickly speak to it. Mayor's report is a quick one. As long as council's consent, I've appointed Alan Dukes to the Parks and Tree Board. Does anybody on the council have an issue with that? Okay, it's done. We're now Parks and Tree Liaison. And then it gets us to number 3, correspondence. Anybody got any questions or comments with any correspondence? Okay, move on to that one. Next is consent calendar. All items are considered routine unless pulled for correction. Councilors, any corrections or comments on the minutes? I'm entertaining a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Councilor Camp?
I motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Thanks, sir. Do I have a second? Councilor Moore seconds it. All those in favor, approving the minutes? All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Brings us to administrative report. Mr. Spencer.
Yeah, we have a number of reports for you tonight. The first is the check register for the past month. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer those for you.
No questions? Continue, sir.
Next is a report from Sergeant Smeldrich on policing in Creswell.
Good evening. I actually have quite a bit to talk about. Good news. So I want to start with I want to start with, there was a late addition to the packet that I just received today, but I wanted to share it because it's relevant to Creswell and I'm very excited about it. So as everybody knows, the New Hope Baptist Church has been burglarized several times in the last couple of months. One of our burglars was sentenced on last Friday, was sentenced to Department of Corrections time. He is being prosecuted for a whole bunch of different crimes right now, even after this. And the idea is the repeat property crime offender. Now he's convicted of 2 burglaries in this letter that we've attached from the district attorney. There's going to be more burglaries from the Veneta area that he's held accountable for, but our case is going to be part of kind of that packet to really get some significant incarceration. The other person involved in the burglaries, I mentioned last month, we've identified the other suspect. We just haven't caught up with him yet. We know who he is. It's a matter of catching up with him though. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about. Moving to the calls for service, you'll see that our calls for service were pretty consistent. There wasn't a whole lot kind of out of the ordinary. You'll see that our self-initiated activity is very high, which is awesome. I'm very excited about that. Self-initiated activity accounted for 11 case numbers. Those could be warrant arrests, towed vehicles because they're suspended, uninsured drivers, anything like that, all from self-initiated activity, which I'm very excited about because my deputies are really getting after it and it's been a lot of fun. So there are a couple specific cases I want to talk about, but I want to mention I reviewed the data from the speed signs on A Street, or that North 10th A Street area. The peak speed for the time period that we recorded, after I had mentioned we need to do some adjusting of the equipment because it was picking up the wrong vehicles and stuff. Once we got it fine-tuned, the peak speed was 42 miles an hour, and that only happened once. The second highest speed was 40 miles an hour, but really it's within an acceptable range for that area, being the average speed of vehicles is actually 25 miles an hour, if you take everything into account. So I wanted to mention that. We did update patrols in that area, but I'm happy to say that we have some data to show kind of what's going on over there. I wanted to talk about another case I mentioned last year. I had mentioned one of our Measure 11 crimes was a type of child pornography case last year. That person has also been convicted. So I'm excited about that. I don't know the conditions of his conviction offhand, but I know that he's going to be on the registry now, which is honestly a win for the community. So it was kind of a unique case, and I don't really want to go into detail because of how unique it is, but I'm excited because one of my deputies in particular put a lot of work into this case and stepped out of kind of his, I don't want to say comfort zone, but it was the first time he'd ever worked a major case like this on his own, and he put it together really well and secured a conviction in it, and I'm very excited about that.
Can you recognize him?
What's that?
Can you say his name?
Yeah, it was Deputy Dills.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if you look at going back to our calls for service, now that I've kind of gotten off track.
We want to hear that stuff. We need to hear that
I'm
stuff.
excited about it.
I think it's important you say the deputy's name.
Yeah, and he actually, he received an award from the Sheriff's Office as part of.
Awesome.
That was one of the things he received an award for. So this last month, we were able to train one of our lateral hires down here in Creswell. You'll notice there's a Measure 11 case. So this started in Creswell, which is why we have the stat for it, but it determined that trainee, as he's investigating this case, determined it actually occurred in the Junction City area. They had just moved to Creswell, so when they reported it, it became a Creswell case, but he kept the case because he was familiar with it and is following up with it now. That trainee's not working down here anymore. We get Deputy Brooks back, but I'm excited about that. So he's headed down the right path for sure. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Everything's kind of par for the course right now, in a good way.
Councilors, any questions?
Just a comment, thank you so much for your, all that great report and that good work. That was awesome. I'm not even gonna pester you about speeding citations.
Well, we already have one for March.
Not this week anyway.
I agree. Thank you. Thank you. Your deputy's doing a quality job for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Feel safer for it. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. You're done with the big podium. All right, Spencer, back to you, sir.
Yeah, next up is the report from our city attorney for activities during this past month. Any questions there? I can try to answer those.
Councilors, any questions? Yes, sir.
Next report is the code report, again for February, and as you can see, there's been lots of activity taking place there, and that report, again, I can try to answer any questions you may have on that particular report.
Councilor, question for the code report? All right.
And then we've got the totals for the permits. We still haven't reworked this report, but that's to come. Any questions on the permit activity?
No questions. All right, so that gets us council action item A, adoption of resolution 2025-05, acceptance of engineer's report for the South Second Street project. Spencer.
Again, a lot of the public comments were on Second Street, and I'll try to respond to some of the things that were raised at that particular meeting during the course of this report. Again, council is really in the beginning of this process when they first approved a resolution to initiate the LID. This meeting tonight is the meeting where they'll review the engineer's report and make a determination as far as what costs should be included in the notice that will be going to property owners for a public hearing coming up in April. And so April will be a formal public hearing, and at that opportunity, we'll have property owners will get notice of the actual costs, and we'll have an opportunity to comment specifically on those costs. So council tonight has two actions that they can take. One would be accepting the engineer's report. The second resolution, which will come as the second item, is approving the resolution that will schedule the public hearing for April 14th. And so those are important dates to remember. Just to give a little background on this, the council originally approved a street financing plan that called for a combination of use of LIDs to cover the curbs and sidewalks, and also implementation of the TUF fee to provide funding so that streets can be upgraded in the community on a more regular basis than what's been able to be accomplished in the past. And that's the policy that the city engineer utilized for basing the assessments on this particular project. At the January 27th work session, that was the first time council was presented with this information, and again, the council instructed us to take a look at alternatives on how we can reduce the cost to the property owners because the original costs were again substantially higher than where the council is tentatively at now. We'll have a little more discussion on that as part of this agenda item. And so on the February 10th City Council meeting, the council approved a resolution asking for the engineer's report and also indicating their intent to move forward with a LID for 2nd Street. At the February 24th work session, the council provided directions to try to reduce the cost from what was originally scoped in the engineer's report to the cost for the first 5 foot of sidewalk that's on any property, 4 inches thick. So driveway thicknesses were taken out of that calculation, and also for corner lots, only the long side of a corner lot would be assessed. So the original numbers had all sidewalks being assessed at for the entire cost, and this was a reduction that the council instructed the engineer to develop their report based on at the February 24th work session. Again, the city council wanted to remove all the costs of curb from the property owner, which this report reflects, and only reflects just that 5 foot width of sidewalk in front of the various property owners. The city would pay the balance of those sidewalk and curbing costs for this particular project. And so the report that's been submitted by the engineer reflects those costs there. Tonight, the council will review the engineer's report, which is part of the resolution, and make a determination as far as whether you want to accept the engineer's report or make any further adjustments to the engineer's report for this project. Right now, the engineer's report has a cost of $98.15 per front foot of property on the long side of corner lots, and then the property lines on other lots through the project area. So that was what was included in the engineer's report that the council is reviewing tonight. There were a number of other things that covered in this report, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the design meeting that was held with the property owners on 2nd Street on February 26th. And there were a number of issues that were brought up, and after that meeting, we sat down and talked about those issues to provide some information for the council and for the residents tonight on those issues. So one of the big concerns that has been expressed was the concern over the survey that was conducted for this particular property. As we indicated on February 26th, we have authorized the county surveyor to review these surveys and make a final determination as far as where the right-of-way lines are to be located. If they're consistent with what is in that the project was designed on, then basically that would leave things as is. If there are differences in those surveys from what we use for this property, for the design of the property, then we're going to have to do some further design to make adjustments to accommodate those lines. The time frame back on when we met with property owners on February 26th was about 6 weeks before we'll get that report from the county assessor or county surveyor, and so that is in the works, and they will be providing a report back to us in probably 4 weeks now from 3 or 4 weeks from today's date. There are general concerns about mailbox locations and parking, and except where we've had requests to move the mailboxes, the intent to again put those mailboxes in the approximate location that they currently are located in. And again, if there's some desire to tweak that location, the engineers are happy to try to accommodate that further with any individual property owners. The property owner with the driveway next to the proposed angle parking who spoke tonight, the one change that we are proposing to do is eliminate that last parking space closest to your driveway, because it does encroach into where your driveway would be located. And again, currently, my understanding is you don't have a driveway, but you'll be getting a driveway as part of this project, and that will certainly free up the visibility a bit for the turn, so it'll be elimination of one of those spaces in the angle parking at that location. Property owner at the corner of 2nd and Oregon Avenue wanted either a driveway or loading zone established at that location. At that location, there's no curb or sidewalk work being done, so it won't affect anything physically there. On the loading zone, there's certain criteria for placing a loading zone. We'll be reviewing that separate from the project because it's not really related to the project itself. And again, there needs to be some justification for a loading zone in order to implement one at that location. We did have a request from a property owner who wanted a section of the driveway which is, I think there's 2 driveways on this property, where a road curb would be put in front of one section of that property. And again, a road curb is generally not used in this type of setting. Furthermore, parking is permitted in front of road curbs, and unless otherwise prohibited, it's thought that a conventional driveway, not roll curbs, would be consistent with the rest of the design of the street at that location. One property owner indicated that they had requested a copy of the survey that was completed for this project, and those surveys were received on the Friday following this meeting. I think everyone should have received them. That requested them. Did you receive the survey?
After multiple requests.
Right, and those surveys were, once the engineer had the final copy, were forwarded to the property owners who had requested that survey information. Again, that's the same information that's going to the county surveyor, and so the county surveyor will be making a determination of the actual lines after that point. One thing I do want to say about that issue too is the current design of the street, it's my understanding, has really addressed some of the encroachment issues that were concerns earlier on, where fences would have to be relocated and those sorts of things. And I think they've been able to adjust the design in order to avoid some of the work that was of concern to property owners. The last thing that was covered at the meeting was, again, the issue with the LID, and there were a couple comments, and then the assessment that's with the LID. There were a couple comments that were made tonight, and I'll try to respond to those regarding the LID. First of all, there was a concern that folks would be exempted from payment. The only ones that would be exempted from the assessment is the short side of the corner lots, based on the council's current position on this issue. And so as far as it could have been, I guess the other issue is there was a question on payment of the LID back. And the LID itself can be paid in full, or it can be paid back over a 10-year period with 6-month billings over that 10-year period for the LID. If the LID is not paid, then the LID would be put on as a lien on property, and at the time that property transacted, that amount would be satisfied. So that's the process that's used for payments of the LID. There would be an interest rate. We've indicated that would be 5% in that neighborhood. For that, that's something the council would determine at the April meeting as far as what the interest rate would be. So I think that, again, covered most of the questions on the physical construction. We had 11 property owners represented there in person out of the 22 property owners. We had one property owner that was participating remotely due to not being under the weather, and we were able to accommodate that. And then we had one property owner that was being represented by another property owner at the street. But the one thing too that I just wanted to emphasize is depending on the action taken by council tonight, we will be sending notices to each individual property owner with background materials in preparation for the April 14th public hearing, if the council schedules that tonight.
Nick, can I ask a question for clarification? You or him?
One sec. Good, done with your report?
Yes.
Okay. Councilors, do you have any questions?
I do.
Okay. Stacy? Councilor?
I'll yield what clarification? Is it truly clarification?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, because he talks fast and I process just a little slower.
Go ahead and ask your question. I'm gonna give you my time.
You're saying the LID can be paid off in full, or it goes through a 10-year period.
Correct.
You're putting a interest charge on that from the get-go, or only if it's not paid off at the end of 10 years?
No, there would be interest if someone spreads it out over the 10-year period. There's no interest if someone pays it off at the completion of the project. And that first assessment notice would be done at the completion of the project, of the entire project, not just the individual sections of the project. But once the entire project is done, the council will be asked to approve an ordinance that would then address the assessments for the project, and that would probably be in October or November of next year, or this year.
Okay, slow down. You're running your words together way too much. The project, once it is completed, everything's done, you guys are off of 2nd Street, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever numbers, you will assess the cost. Are you not going to tell us what the cost is that we will be facing before this?
Correct. The cost, you're going to be, depending on the action the council takes tonight, you're going to be receiving a notice that will have the amount of your specific assessments for your specific properties that is being proposed by the council. Council, the way the LIDs are set up, that can vary. It can only go up a certain percentage. I think it's either 5 or 10%. I can't remember, above that cost. And if the costs come in less than expected, then there'd be a reduction in those costs from what the number is in your report. But when we mail out a notice on this issue, we'll be very specific about that process.
All right, Councilor Holt?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to start with, I was a little taken aback by the angled parking. Correct me if I'm wrong, but did we not vote and choose between two plans? And one of those plans was parallel parking and one had angled parking, and we went with parallel. Is that correct? I'd like to know how we got back to the angled parking.
And have Cliff Lynch come up to the podium.
The angled parking, we had a whole discussion about how unsafe that would be.
Yeah, I think you're, excuse me, you're talking about the A versus the B plan that was brought to council. The angled parking would have been on D Street. The two angled parking that is on 2nd Street have always been there. And they have not changed, other than adding a space here or there, but they've always been in the design.
Okay, so that was my misunderstanding. Well, thank you for clarifying that for me. And then, I feel like there's still a lot of moving parts here. And I myself, I don't feel comfortable voting tonight on any of this. I just want to put that out there. Thank you.
Councilor Dukes?
My biggest thing is, I know that the gentleman that's losing all of his parking spots in front of his house, we're taking one of the parking spots out. But is there enough parking for a vehicle between his driveway and that first parking spot that's gonna be there? Because if there's not, I mean, that's still a full 15, at least 15 feet that you can put another vehicle in there that you're gonna need that to view when you're trying to back up or anything too.
Cliff, can you respond to that? Now, the property is not right on the corner, which is where the Creswell First is located. It's the next door neighbor to that.
Right.
And some of those spots are in front of the Creswell First as well, so.
Right. Without having the plan in front of me, I'm gonna speak off of memory, but there's, I think, 5 angled parking spaces between what would be a new driveway into that property. And so there wouldn't be any additional parallel parking because it would be taken up with angled. And then if you head what would be north, because there's additional driveways put in, there's not going to be another spot for a parallel parking. There is farther down, but with the driveways that are existing that we're putting back, replacing, there's not any areas in there for additional parallel parking. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Councilors, any other questions, comments?
Sure. Sure. Yeah, it's just a clarification on, I don't feel that we're done having a conversation about reducing the cost here. And are you saying that tonight is it? This is our last shot at talking about reducing the, I see that there's one of the options is to reduce the cost by 20%. And that would make it 52 a linear foot. So if we move forward with this, is there still going to be time to discuss that? Because from my understanding, we can bail out on this thing up until the project moves forward.
Right.
And I'm looking, if I look at the schedule here, after the hearing, the council orders improvements April 14th. Then the next step, which is 6, after cost estimates are known or actual costs are known, council holds public hearing on proposed assessments. So we don't even know, we don't know the actual cost.
Yeah, that's the one that's going to be towards the projects and that final hearing. So basically, what you have to do tonight, because property owners are saying, hey, what are you charging me? You have to come up with a number for the resolution tonight, and then you have a public hearing on that on the 14th. Again, on the 14th, you have the option to make adjustments if you feel you need to make adjustments. But we need to have a number in the resolution to hold the hearing on the 14th, because we can't just say we don't know what we're going to charge you. You got to have a number to base that hearing on. Following that hearing, the council will have the opportunity to take whatever action you wish to take, including reducing, that number. I don't think you could increase it at that point, but you could reduce it at that point, so.
So there's gonna be more opportunity to have, it almost feels like that would be a conversation for a work session, to still discuss how would we bring these numbers down? Because I would be all for, okay, if we're gonna move forward and we still have opportunity to even bring this lower, that we say the 20%, or say the 40%. And also, we haven't talked about the interest rate, the 5% interest rate?
That's something that does get set at the 14th meeting.
Okay, and the council has saying
council, yeah.
But, so that sounds great. I'd love to see, hey, let's say 40% and let's say 2% interest rate. But we don't know the fallout from that. So, how is that gonna affect our next project and moving forward?
Yeah, I think there's a couple critical things to be aware of. With this project, it's slated to go to bids coming up in April. And you really need to have something determined. At some point, you have to make a decision, of what you're gonna do or not do. And so that really has to be decided before you're awarding bids on this project. And because you may choose not to go forward with the project. I mean, that's an option that the council has if that's a decision the council wanted to make. So I think for tonight, you need to put a number in that you're comfortable going to hearing with, but knowing that you can adjust it at the hearing on April 14th, and we can have discuss it at the work session on the 24th, I guess, is the next work session.
Okay, and you did comment that we would not be able to go back up.
Correct.
Whatever we say tonight.
Yeah, I think if you make a commitment to with a number tonight, that's the number that's going to go out to the hearing. I think if you went above that number later on, you'd have to start that process over again. But there's nothing that would restrict you from going down lower than whatever number you plug in tonight. But you need to have a number in the resolution tonight. So.
Okay, and then this would have to be, a motion would have to be made to amend this report, or how would that process look like?
So the option the council has on the resolution is you can approve the resolution as presented, or it could be a motion to approve the resolution as presented. That would have the $98 linear foot in it. Or a motion could be made to, the alternative identified there was assessing 4 feet of sidewalk and the city picking up the balance. That would reduce it to about $78 front foot. You could run with those numbers. So what would be is accept the engineer's report, except whatever the exception is. And that exception, if you went with 4 foot, would be only assessing 4 feet of the sidewalk cost, as an example.
Councilor Holt?
One of the things that Buck mentioned was the responsibility of the homeowner for repairs to the sidewalk in future years and things like that. And I wanted to ask the A Street project, and I don't know that you would know this, but somebody else might. On the A Street project, I understand that the city picked up the cost because it came through a grant or whatever. Who's responsible for the upkeep of the sidewalks in front of those homes?
Neighbors?
Yeah, the homeowner or the adjacent property owners would be.
I just wanted to confirm that even though a grant picked up the cost, I just wanted to confirm that the responsibility still lied with the homeowners.
Right.
Councilors, any other questions, comments?
I do.
Councilor Dukes?
So even if we go with the money that's on here right now, we can change, because I know like percentage and stuff like that, but that's been talked about before, and can we change that at all during this process?
Yeah, we need a number so we can send a notice out to the property owners so they know what's being discussed for April 14th.
Okay.
And so you have to establish a number tonight. council can go below that number after hearing the comments on the 14th. We can schedule a work session. We can have as part of the work session on the 24th, discussion on this item. But the notices would be going out with whatever you're approving tonight. You can discuss whether you're going to stay at that level or look at something different after hearing public comments on the 14th.
But I guess the question I have for you then is, I know that they've said a percentage, like a homeowner would pay so much percent, and then another person would pay so much percent by what they have and stuff like that, what they're losing. And I was wondering if that's, because what I'm seeing on here is just a flat rate per square, but are we able to adjust that as well if that comes up?
I think the council is really free to do anything that would be less than what you're sending notices on going forward.
Okay.
But you wouldn't be able to go above without having to hold a whole new hearing and request a second, or approve a second resolution to that effect, so.
I'm pretty confident this council's not going up. If anything, we're going down. I think we can all agree to that right now. We're trying to go down. So I'm with what Councilor Holden mentioned, where we feel like we're not quite there. But I also agree with Councilor Castillo that we still have time to change it. I just want to make sure the homeowners get as much information in front of them as possible tonight. And is there any way, everybody here from 2nd Street, I don't know if Caitlin can print out a copy of the fees that we have right now, the current rules of fees. You guys seen those yet for your property?
Nope.
They won't until you approve the resolution, because right now we can send them something out and it doesn't mean anything because you haven't taken any action.
Well, I still think it would have been important that we could at least show them what we're beginning to work with and then trying to whittle down from there so they would have something in their mind, because there's no way we're going up. There's no way this council's spoken, there's no way it's going up. So I think we should at least give them a copy of this, but I think that we have some options here that we can accept a motion of the resolution of the engineer's report, but we can go ahead and just say that we're going to accept it with 35% less than what it is on this sheet of paper right now. We can do that, correct?
Yeah, whatever motion is made, if it's supported, and 4 of you vote for it, that's what's going to be going on.
My only other concern is that once we do this for 2nd Street, this is the precedent for every street going forward. So this is not an easy decision. This is a slippery slope, and we have to be decisive in what we do. We have to consider everybody in what we do, and I understand everybody's different financial situations and ages and abilities, and so we need to go forward with the whole, but we need to set a precedent going forward for every future street that we go ahead and fix. So whatever motion somebody would like to give with a discounted percentage off the numbers we have, which are steeply discounted from what you originally saw a couple months ago.
Do you have a paper of it?
I will. I'll give it to you here in just a second. Could you please? Yeah, I'll have Caitlin print off a couple copies so you can at least see what the last lowest cost is. You can see how far we have come, so you have seen that we've done a lot of work. We're not done yet. We're trying to do the best we can, but we're still work in progress. Spencer?
Yeah, the other thing too is this report is online in the agenda packet, so you can read this entire report by accessing the city website and go under agendas.
Councilor Holt?
Well, I'm mainly in line with you. I'm opposed to going any lower than the lowest that we have listed here, mainly because I'm not interested in asking the rest of the city of Creswell to pay such a much larger transportation utility fee right off the bat. So initially I had supported, we were not unanimous in supporting that lowest level, but after listening to feedback from constituents and just sort of reviewing everything, I'm on board with you all for that 98.15 rate.
That brings up thank you. That brings up a question on the tough fee. If we choose to go with a lower rate or we adjust this, does that mean the tough fee is not automatically raised, right? It's negotiated through the committees.
Yeah, the tough fee would have to be adjusted by the council when it's some action.
And I would like to point out that we do risk that the committee may decide not to push or they may vote no on raising the tough, right? So there is that risk that we could end up without funding if we go this route.
Councilor Castillo?
Yeah, I believe the tough fee would need to be looked at, and that would come as a recommendation And then it would be up to the council to make that decision. But that's a conversation clearly for another time.
Right.
And I would rather create a practice of reducing the cost to our citizens than creating a practice of it being a high cost. So I would love to see this move forward right now, and we'll have to figure this out at a later time, that we reduce this to 40% with a 3% interest rate. The interest rate is not even discussed.
No, it won't be, the code defines when you have to deal with these issues. The interest rate is something that's dealt with at the April 14th hearing.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Right.
Because there will be no, according to this, there will be no time, we won't bring any of this back to a work session.
While the council wants to discuss this on the 24th, we can have that as an agenda item.
Okay.
Which might be, if you're still open-ended about it, it's probably something we should do, so.
Well, I don't see any problem, I don't have any problem moving forward with this reduced tonight. But that's up to council. Council Cat?
So, with the current state of the world, sorry, I'm gonna go off here a little bit, and just the inflation, and then last year Pacific Power wanted to raise 15%, I'm sure it's gonna be more this year. There's all these prices, tariffs and all this, Canada's threatening to cut back electricity, etc. So I'm sure our electricity bills are gonna raise, the cost of groceries still going up. It seems, I just can't get behind telling somebody who's living on a fixed income that, you know what, surprise, here's, $100 a month that you're gonna have to put aside in 6 month intervals.
Council, is there anything else? Well, we're at that point where we need to decide if we're gonna accept this engineer's report with the income, or with the amount that is in our packet, or if we're gonna amend that amount to a degree, and then we're gonna accept that price going forward, which does not mean it's guaranteed, but that means that it will be the highest possible cost that you guys will incur. So, somebody can give me a motion, and then we can vote on it, it might get voted down, and we'll, might have to go to another motion, might get voted down, till we get a motion that's voted on. So, yeah, please. Caitlin's got some of the lowest numbers for you. Thank you for printing those out for us.
Just on that issue too, that was, the per front foot costs are in the report that we gave everybody at the meeting on the 24, or, whatever, 26th. So those numbers were shared with everybody that attended that meeting, so.
When I wrote my letter, I didn't put any fees in there, I just contact and let them know what we're working on. All right, councilors, well, it's that time.
Okay, one more question. So if I make a motion, then I would have to insert this a new number that I'm considering?
Yeah, if you're modifying the engineer's report, the motion should be to move with the resolution and then just indicate what the modification to the engineer's report is that you want to make as part of your motion. So,
okay. So I'd like to make, I'll go ahead and make the motion.
Councilor Garcia.
I move that the City Council adopt Resolution 2025-05, a resolution approving the engineer's report for proposed curb, gutter, and sidewalk improvements on 2nd Street between Oregon Avenue and F Street, and D Street between 2nd Street and 1st Street at a 40%, reducing it to 40%.
Reducing what to 40%?
The
$98?
Yes.
240?
Yes, the $98, which would be, well, it'd be two times that. or enough to,
So putting it in other terms, I think we'd only be assessing 2 feet of the sidewalk to the property owners, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
with
Well, that would be cleaner to say it that
Yes,
way.
that'd be 2 feet.
Yep.
2 feet.
With the city picking
sidewalk.
up the balance of
Yes.
the sidewalk costs.
When you're ready to.
I got it. That's what my motion is.
Okay.
Can that be read back, please?
Yeah, for clarification.
Well, I'd like to get, I'm trying to
Get your numbers. Or
Minus
just go with your 2 feet.
20% equals,
Yeah, I run off the feet because that's the clean.
okay, 4 feet.
So you want to go with 2 foot? You said 40%, so that'd be 2 foot.
I move that my mic's on. I move that the city council adopt resolution 2025-05, a resolution approving the engineer's report for proposed curb, gutter, and sidewalk improvements on 2nd Street between Oregon Avenue and F Street and D Street between 2nd Street and 1st Street at the rate of 2 feet a linear foot.
Assessing 2 feet.
Assessing 2 feet.
Right, and that already,
Sidewalk.
and that has a reduction on the corners already built into the report, so.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion? There's not a second, so that motion would die, correct?
Correct, and you can ask for.
Okay, so I'll be asking for a second motion with a different number. Can I motion for the 20%? I'm making sure. I don't know that or the other.
You sure can.
All right. Well, I'm in a motion. I move that the city council adopt resolution 2025-05, a resolution improving the engineer's report and proposed curb, gutter, and sidewalk improvements on 2nd Street between Oregon Avenue and F Street and D Street between 2nd Street and 1st Street in the amount of 4 feet per sidewalk, which is a reduction of 20% of the current cost you have in front of you. That is my motion, that you will pay for the 4 feet, not the full 6 foot 4 inches. Is there a second? All right.
I'll second it.
Okay, I got a second. Any further discussion before we vote on this motion? All right. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes with Councilor Dukes, Kramer, and Kent in opposition. So to be clear for everybody in the audience, the numbers you have in front of you, we voted on a 20% reduction. Doesn't mean we're finished. We're going to keep going forward, but that is where we sit right now. It will not go any higher. Feel free to email at any time or call. Spencer.
Yeah, so we will be sending notices out to all the property owners with the adjusted numbers based on this action. And again, the hearing will be on the April 14th. And at that point, council will consider finalizing the assessments or modifying them should the council choose to do that. The other question I have for the council is, do you want a discussion item on the next work session on this issue?
I think we should.
Okay.
Councilors in favor? Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Real quick.
I really need everything in paper. I don't have a computer and I don't put it on my phone. So, go online,
We
go
can
online.
get your information. We can print it out for you.
We're gonna mail.
Okay.
Basically, the report that we did earlier to everybody.
Okay.
We'll have some additional information on the assessment, so you'll have all that information mailed to you.
I give you my copy, but I got notes and that's public record and I can't do that.
I have no feeling on trade.
We might need to.
And yours aren't public record, so you can do whatever you want to do with them.
All right, so we're gonna move on to council action item B, the adoption of Resolution 2025-06, scheduling a public hearing for April 14th to proceed with the South Second Street Project Local Improvement District. Spencer, please.
This one, it was just scheduling the hearing that we were speaking of before, and that hearing will have, based on the council's motion, the cost for property owners being assessed for 4 feet of the sidewalk, with the city picking up the balance of the cost for the sidewalk, the side portion of corner lots, as well as all the curbing through the project area. And again, this hearing will be on the 14th. We have to put, by ordinance, we have to put notices in the paper, but I've indicated in my report, we're going to send out individual letters with the hearing to all the property owners impacted, so they have an opportunity to get that information, and then they'll be able to provide their comments on the 14th prior to you making a final decision on the assessment amount for this project.
Okay. Councilors, I'm accepting a motion. Okay. Councilor Castillo.
I move, well, I'm in microphone. I move that the city council adopt resolution 2025-06, a resolution proclaiming the city's intent to construct curb, gutter, and sidewalk improvements on 2nd Street between Oregon Avenue and F Street, and D Street between 2nd Street and 1st Street, scheduling a public hearing for April 14th, 2025 at 6 p.m.
Excellent. I have a second. Councilor Kent seconds it. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Go to action item C is a public hearing on adoption of ordinance 556, and I believe that's Curtis.
And the ordinance should be 567, just for the record.
It is 567.
567, sorry, it says 566 on the paper.
Yeah, no worries. So it's, in front of you is a type 4 land use decision, and so this is a legislative amendment to our transportation system plan that was recommended unanimously by our planning commission. And so there's two kind of more surgical amendments that are presented in front of you. And the first one is a redesign of the northbound I-5 on-off ramp, or on-ramp, sorry. No, on-off ramp. The original TSP from 2019 designated the widening of the northbound ramp with a additional right turn lane, and after another analysis, the traffic engineer who did the analysis determined that that wasn't sufficient. And that's due to a slight change of what their standards are. It's the MUTCD. They went from the 10th to 11th edition, that things changed. And they determined that some sort of traffic control device would be required in order for the intersection to service us for the next 20 plus years. And so the two leading options are a traffic signal or roundabout. Out of all the options that they looked at, those were the two that could handle 20 years of growth with the level of service that they deemed to be kind of within their range. And so this is a bit of a strategic amendment. It kind of says that the city of Creswell is well aware that this intersection is looking to be dangerous, and we support some sort of traffic control device. It's also kind of useful for, so this is an ODOT intersection, it's their jurisdiction, not ours. And it's also helpful for ODOT if they want to apply for funding on our behalf. They can kind of cite our TSP and say, hey, the city of Creswell is kind of behind this movement. And it also gives us something to explain to our citizens. I know I've heard it at my desk plenty of times that this is an unsafe intersection. This gives us something to say, hey, yes, we acknowledge that this is unsafe, and here's our plan to fix it once the money arrives. And then so I'm just going to respond to the roundabout comment that came up earlier. From what I've seen, ODOT is not in the position to pursue a project that is against the public will. I can't promise that there wouldn't be a roundabout in the future, but if the citizens of Creswell demand a roundabout. My understanding is that they will not build a roundabout. Does it mean, so yeah, I'm not exactly sure how it will play out, but I did see I remember an example in Springfield where they received a grant, a few $1 million on their main street down 126. 126 is a pretty dangerous road. And the grant was for a handful of intersection improvements, which did include some roundabouts. And their public said, no, we would really prefer to not have roundabouts, and so they didn't do the project. And so there was kind of the catch-22 on that one, but.
I was a part of that fight.
I was on
Okay.
I
I
was
was a
on the
part of that
committee
fight.
in that, yeah.
Okay.
And it didn't go that easily. There's a little more to it than that, I
Okay,
guess.
okay.
Yeah.
Can
So-
I ask a question? Where's this roundabout at?
Coming into Creswell from southbound.
The one right here?
Yeah,
is it right
coming
at
north into Creswell. If you come from Cottage Grove into Creswell, it's right there, right, coming into Creswell. That's where they've suggested the potential of one going. There's not one now.
No, I know there's not one now.
That's what she
Which
said.
actual intersection are you talking about?
The freeway.
Coming off of the
Coming onto
So
the
you're
freeway.
talking about,
Directly to the east of the bridge that crosses I-5, when you come off the northbound exit from Cottage Grove to Creswell, it would be right there. Before you can take a left and cross the bridge west into Creswell.
right, just to the east of the bridge. When are you gonna fix the one we have
All
here?
right, go ahead, Chris.
So the second part to this amendment is to add a couple of crossings in front of our elementary school. So on our TSP, as it sits today, we have high pedestrian crossings marked all over the city. There's a crossing at 7th Street and A Street and 10th Street and A Street. And this recommendation encourages high priority projects at 8th and A Street and 9th and A Street. And both of those intersections were identified as high priority projects on our Safe Routes to School plan. And so this helps keep our plans consistent. It kind of, again, it's kind of a strategic thing of if we apply for funding, we can say it's on our Safe Routes to School plan and it's on our TSP. Does it change everything? No, but it does give city staff a little bit more support if we want to pursue funding for this intersection, because we can say, hey, it's on our TSP, City Council approved this amendment. We feel like we have the support to do so. And so,
Go ahead.
again, this is a little surgical amendment of our TSP, and I would recommend support of adoption of ordinance 567.
Okay. I'm accepting any motion to adopt.
You need to have a public hearing.
Oh, that's right, apologies.
Oh, yeah?
All right, so if anybody wants to come say anything about this, please come to the podium.
Curtis did distribute some written communications that came in after the agenda packet went out. That is before you here, I think.
Yes, yeah, those are in front of you. There's 2 emails that support traffic control systems at the intersection.
And then we had the people that spoke during public comment. We probably should reflect those in the public hearing part of the minutes, since it was specifically for this public hearing, I think, so.
Reflect on how we already got the form.
Yeah, in the minutes
Oh,
under the
okay.
public hearing, so that we don't lose those comments.
All right, I'm gonna open up for a 1-minute public hearing.
Nice hammer.
It's handmade, hand burned, hand drawn.
It's me again.
Welcome you again.
So a roundabout would absolutely be absurd. Nobody in America knows how to properly execute a roundabout. We would need to bring in a bunch of Europeans to properly show us how to use those, because I get irritated every time I'm in a roundabout. I drove a lot in Europe. We don't use them the way that they're designed. A stoplight obviously makes more sense, not a flashing, not a blinking one. We just need a red, yellow, green light there. And it would probably be less expensive, and you wouldn't get semis jumping the roundabouts or cars that like to fly over the overpass, because then there's going to be a little lip and they can launch. I've seen lots and lots of accidents at roundabouts, especially people not knowing how to execute them properly. So yeah, I would say, please, for the love of God, do not put a roundabout in this town and a stoplight. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Young lady in the front.
You're gonna get attacked.
Stop it. I know where you live. Okay, Sheriff. Please, I'm going to second Buck. Please put stoplights up there. When you get off the freeway, let's just say hypothetically at Coburg, you get off the freeway and you were going to make the same kind of turn. You've got truck stops, you got semis going. There's stoplights there and it works really smooth. You can time them. If you would please consider addressing the one that turns down 99 or goes straight. That is a nightmare. That is the one that seriously needs to be considered. That intersection. Thank you.
Caroline Suttereth, 465 South 7th, may I speak again?
Please.
Okay, I'm just going to cite for an example, the roundabout at Franklin and, I guess, what is it, Franklin in Springfield. Half the cars don't pay any attention to who has the right of way when they're inside the roundabout. I've seen so many near misses there. We really need traffic control at that exit, but a roundabout is not the answer. A red, yellow, green traffic light is. Thank you.
Thank you. I assume your phone broke?
No.
Not that anybody else wants to speak, please go ahead. Okay. All right, I'm gonna end the public hearing. Go ahead, Councilor Dukes, you want to comment?
With the roundabout, I will definitely vote against it as a truck driver. I've hauled triples through, from Springfield over to Bend, and there's a roundabout in Sisters.
There's more than one now.
Well, yeah, there's two of them now, but I know what it's like to go around a roundabout in a semi-truck. And so, yeah, and on Franklin Boulevard, I went around that one and it's a set of triples. It's not fun and it's dangerous. You have a rollover tendency with a semi, and if there's an accident on I-5 either south or north of Creswell is a thoroughfare through with all the traffic, because that's the only way for it to get through. There definitely needs to be a safety issue, safety traffic light, stop signs or something there. So most definitely a roundabout is definitely out of the question for me.
Okay, I'm gonna be looking for a motion to accept the council hold.
You may not like mine.
I probably won't.
First, I need to ask a question about process here. At this point, can I make a motion to make an amendment to this TSP?
Now, you can include in your motion
We can handle them separately, right? I don't have to do a complete motion and then add an amendment in the motion.
well, whatever motion you make is the one that the mayor will ask for someone to support, and if someone supports it, then it will be discussed. So you can make the motion.
And then we could make another motion to pass this, right? If I wanted to do a motion just to do the amendment right now, would that be acceptable?
Well, there's nothing to amend until there's a motion on the floor.
I understand that.
So you can make a motion on the floor, but I would include your amendment right from the get-go, and then we can talk about that.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. Let me get my head around this then.
So the motion probably would be to approve the.
Wait,
Well-
I have to find the spot again, because, where does it say or?
And I'm gonna ask Cliff a question while you're looking at that, if that's okay?
Mm-hmm.
Or not Cliff, but Curtis. I get Cliff and Curtis mixed up here. They look a lot different, but anyway, on the issue, if council were amending this, what's the process with again, this type of an ordinance? Is council authorized to do that without planning commission consent?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, they can,
So they can act on that tonight then if they chose to do?
correct.
Okay.
I know, I just can't find, I just had it right before I talked. Where is the language that says or roundabout? Can you help me out here? does, it says it, I just read it.
On Exhibit B, page 78, project ID I2.
Yeah, we were just looking at that.
So under the description, it says intersection improvement long-term, install a roundabout or traffic signal. And
We're at page 78.
page 78, project ID
I2.
I2, description, install a roundabout or traffic signal.
Where?
Fourth one down.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Ugh. Because I was on the Main Street Safety Project, and I'm not going down that road again. So, I move that the City Council adopt ordinance number 567, an ordinance amending the Creswell Transportation System Plan related to the I-5 northbound ramp at Cloverdale Road and the A Street pedestrian crossings with the following amendment. Removing
I think this roundabout or is the language in the thing that you'd want to remove if you want to.
She just want, yeah, you're right.
just to remove the or roundabout language
Get rid of the
from
or
that.
roundabout.
Yeah, I would like it just to be a traffic light. My apologies, I just don't know how to word it off the top of my head.
Okay, you got it. Okay, do I have a second?
I think it has to be read twice.
Counselor Ken?
Yeah, after the
Okay.
second.
Okay.
If the second, that has to be read, the title has to be read again.
Counselor Kent seconds it, so Counselor Holt, will you read it again?
This time you just need to read the title of the motion, well, and the amendment, actually, so.
Yeah.
I move that the City Council adopt ordinance 567, an ordinance amending the Creswell Transportation System Plan related to the I-5 northbound ramp at Cloverdale Road and the A Street pedestrian crossings, amended by removing the words "or roundabout."
Okay, any further discussion? I work in Springfield, I hate those roundabouts. So I'm not for a roundabout, but I also live on that side of town and I struggle to get my kids to school on time. Some people might know that they're here. So the stoplight, I don't like that either, but that's what's safest for Creswell. So I'm on board with the stoplight, as long as I get courteous behavior when I drop my kids off late. Councilor Marsh?
Comment that the Coburg intersection came to mind when you brought it up. I go that way a lot, and it works quite well. There's hardly ever any traffic. This intersection has a heck of a lot more traffic than the Coburg, but they have a very nice light.
Excellent. Anyone else before we vote? Discussion? Comment? All right. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passed unanimously, or roundabout is exonerated from the TSP. That brings us to council action item 6D. Spencer?
Sure.
Please.
Well, first of all, I want to give my appreciation for everyone getting back to me on freeing up your schedules for the May 13th, which is a Tuesday. Again, that's when we're proposing to do the council interviews of the finalists for the city manager's job. And I know that we have 6 that have confirmed, and Councilor Ken is still working on his schedule to try to get that open so he can participate as well. But we do have a quorum available for that date. Again, just a few key dates going forward that the council will be directly involved with is April 14th. At the regular meeting, we'll also be holding an executive session, and I'm going to provide a report to the council on the applicants that are identified, that are qualified, and would be given preliminary interviews. And so council will see the list of all the applicants and who I'm recommending that we would go forward with preliminary interviews. And if you want to adjust that list, we can talk about it at that work session. Then following that, I'll be doing the preliminary interviews with maybe 10 candidates, depending on how many are qualified. We do have to interview all veterans that meet minimum qualifications for this, and plus all others that apply for it as well. Then on April 28th, we will have an executive session in conjunction with the work session on that day. And that's when I will present the results of the preliminary interviews to the council, and council will, and I'll have a recommendation, but council can modify that recommendation as far as the finalists that will be brought in for full interviews. And so the folks that council wants to have full interviews will be notified after the April 28th session, and they'll be brought in here on May 12th. We'll do the panel interviews on Monday. We'll have a community reception on Monday at 5. We have a council meeting at 6 o'clock that night. Council can stop in there if you have a few minutes to do that. Don't need to be part of that. Then we'll be dividing up staff to do that. And then the full interviews will start at 8 o'clock on Monday, or on Tuesday morning. And the first half hour will kind of finalize all the questions. We'll have questions for you. If you want to tweak those questions, we can talk about that. And the first interview would be scheduled probably at 8:30. And the length of time is really going to be dependent on how many finalists the council wants to interview based on the applicants received and reviewed at that work session on April 28th. So that's kind of the process, and I'd ask the council to approve a motion to set that date of May 13th as a council executive session, followed by a public session in which the mayor would announce the appointment, and council would vote to confirm that appointment in the special session that would follow. So there's a suggestion motion here, and request council move forward with that.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion. Councilor Castillo?
I move that the city council schedule executive sessions for Tuesday, May 13th, beginning at 8 a.m. for interviews and deliberation on candidates for city manager, with a special meeting following the executive sessions to confirm the mayor's appointment of the Creswell's next city manager and authorize the negotiation of an employment agreement with the selected candidate.
Do I have a second? Councilor Kent seconds the motion. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. All right, that brings us to upcoming events. So please review the city's website and look at the calendar. That should have work sessions, we'll have committee meetings, all sorts of fun stuff. But that way you can also stay in touch if there's anything important to you specifically. The calendar should have it on there. If not, email me or anybody else here so we can get you in the right direction. Thank you all.
One mention, somebody said that they don't really do online. There are calendars downstairs in the foyer, correct?
She left.
I'll grab one for her.
Okay, thank you. I feel like there's printed calendars downstairs, is that correct?
Caitlin, you know that.
Yeah, he's seen it.
10 years old now. I wasn't in line to use that old.
Yeah, I know, I was thinking about that.
Caitlin does everything.
Literally.